And we're back, team, for another podcast with the One Guys. I'm super excited, and I'm joined here just by Mr. Hayden Rolfe this time. We haven't got any special guests. It's just the two of us.
Solo.
Yeah, sorry if you were disappointed and you thought you might get another special guest. But what a guest that was, actually. It was a pleasurable podcast last time. So I feel like we've got some big boots to fill, just me and yourself, myself and you.
Yeah, well, we're going to be completely honest with you. This is just going to be very, very conversational based. Got a few topics that I want to talk about, but we're not going to be going into, like, there's no set theme here. We're just riffing.
Yeah, but I think these are the best podcasts because it is just like a conversation. You know, when people look, I mean, you guys watching at home, you're going to see the pair of us, but you guys just listening are obviously, you know, just, it's like you're sitting in a room with people having just a conversation. And I think that's kind of cool sometimes. It's just like raw
entertainment. I've just realised, obviously, for people that are on YouTube, massive rookie because I'm going into the light. So there's going to be like...
Wow, that's not too bad, to be fair. You can see you right. Yeah.
Cool. So obviously, we have started football again.
We have started football. And it's funny that you mentioned that in your text message to me about why we're going to talk about football. All right, let's just start. Let's just be completely honest here. So myself and Hayden, how old are you now? 28, 9? 29. And I'm 31. So, you know, we're packing on the years now. We played Seaford under 23s. And obviously you can imagine going into this, we're like, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of youngsters. They're going to be super fit, super energetic. And, you know, it's the second game of preseason. So we're not our prime. You know, we're not our prime of fitness yet. We need a few more games and training sessions to get back there. We actually won 3-0.
My biggest concern before the game was actually the fact that Seaford to Buxted is a good 45 minutes away. So on a Wednesday night at kickoff at 7 for a bunch of under 23s to come, it's like, I mean, if you try and get our squad to go to
not happening
Seaford and play on a Wednesday night, like there will be no one playing.
Yeah, it is keen, as in, like, they obviously come, and we knew this long. They come knowing that they were like, we should win. Like, we should come and we should win, which is why I didn't mind traveling at 7 o'clock at night. Like, the game didn't finish till 8:45. So anyway, the fact that we obviously, you know, we found out there was only two of them were over 18. The rest of them were 18 years old. I mean, they were young. Yeah, mate. They were young and they were ready for it. But, you know, the experienced older gentlemen like myself and Hayden and the rest of the team, we pulled it through. And we won 3-0. Hayden scoring what can only be described as an absolute blinder. I'd like to set the scene, though, prior to the game. Hayden was trying many of these and they were going, I don't know, 10 meters above the goal.
I spent a good 15 minutes in the bush trying to find the balls.
And you actually think I'm joking. For those of you that are listening, that's not even a joke. Like, these were going miles and everyone was laughing. And then it come to the game and it just propped up and he hit it, as Hayden does, a million miles an hour. And as Hayden said, 1 in 1,000 are going to go top bins and be absolutely spectacular. And that's what happened.
It was one of those ones where I almost, when I hit it, I knew straight away, like when I saw the trajectory of the ball, I was like, that is perfect. Like, that is going top in. But like, even when it went in, I still, like, I remember looking at one of our teammates, like, and he just said the shock of my face. I was like, that actually went in.
I think when I come in, I was like, mate, that was brilliant. You were like, yeah, I mean, that's not happening often.
Yeah. Well, that is all we really want to talk about on the podcast today. I mean, so that's that.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, we can just wrap it up here. Oh, yeah, but also, not only did Hayden, you scored one, I scored one. It was a bit of a tap-in, but I also got the other assist for the goal that was nothing short of Barcelona.
Nothing. It was a very well-worked goal.
Played out, a chip through ball over to the top to Ryan. I've run past the defender, taken it off my chest, crossed it into the box. Grant's tapped it in for a lovely finish. I mean, Barcelona would have been proud of that.
Yeah, it was an extremely enjoyable game to play in, considering we're not going to talk numbers to the previous game that we had, but
we should have lost on paper.
Let's just say it wasn't fun. So confidence weren't high going into it. But
they also had the audacity to call us a pub team. They looked at us and said we were a pub team. Bearing in mind that none of our team is actually overweight. Like we were just old, like 10. I was 13 years older than some of those. That's what makes you feel old. When I was like, wait a minute, 13 years.
But what's the funniest thing is like we're one of the youngest teams in our league. So it's like we're the one of the youngest teams in our year, in our league.
Yeah, I think I'm one of the oldest on the team. I'm like one of the fourth, maybe at 31.
Now, what's his name's gone?
Puff.
Yeah,
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Puff the Magic Dragon. But on that note, talking football, what I said to Ryan was I didn't really realise until until the next day. And we were having a bit of a conversation about this, and we were saying about, how people, when they're looking to lose body fat and stuff like that, like they feel like they need to like completely burn themselves out. It's almost a chore to go and do the things that they need to do in order to be successful. And they think it requires like hours and hours and hours of slogging away on the cardio, doing boring, mundane stuff. But I said to Ryan, so on Wednesday, I did 42,000 steps, and this is having the ring on as well. So I've got this Oura ring. So we've got these Oura rings. So you're not actually meant to wear these playing football, but I try and get away with it because I like to see how much I cover on a football pitch.
Yeah.
So the next day I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, like I managed to do 42,000 steps. And it was like, the calories won't be accurate whatsoever, but it was something like 4,600 calories burnt. But this is what I said to Ryan. I was like, not at one point on Wednesday did I ever go out and think, I need to go get my steps up. I literally completely naturally got in 42,000 steps without even any thought or effort about doing it. And this is where, like, if you can start to do more things along these lines. So for me, the love of playing football, it's like I never have ever in my entire life looked at football as a means to burn body fat. I do it because I absolutely enjoy playing it. I love the sport. I love the social environment. I love everything about it. But people think when it comes to achieving their fat loss goals that they have to, don't they? They feel like they have to try and find a sport. They have to go to the gym. They have to do these things. But more often than not, if you actually just find something that you truly enjoy doing and you repeat it over and over again, like I could legitimately, like especially after Wednesday, like I could have gone and played football every single day just out of like the sheer passion of love doing it.
And are you joking? Like, my body is in tatters. I've had to have a bath 2 mornings in a row to like ease my body into the day. I had a bath this morning before I went to the gym because my body and my like obliques and my back was so sore. I was like, I need to loosen up, man.
Yeah, but I do I do quite a bit in like football specific stuff in the gym.
Yeah, I don't. I'm very forward and backwards.
Yeah, so like it's not too bad for me. But anyway, point being, playing football, like I'm easily getting 20,000 steps. So if I just think, okay, well, I know I'm getting 20,000 steps doing that. Like, can I repeat the process of just playing football? Like, this is almost where I'm going to say it. Fat loss becomes so much easier because you're not actually thinking directly about losing body fat. You're just continuing to do a thing that you really enjoy doing. But it just so happens that thing that you're doing is burning me a ton of calories, is getting me super active. And like, there's absolutely no way. I'm not tracking my calories at the moment or anything like that, but there's no way I would have not been in a calorie deficit on Wednesday. Like I didn't eat 4,000 plus calories. And like I said, like that number isn't 100% correct. There's going to be loads of variables to it, but I still know based upon how active I was, because the steps are very accurate. Like the steps are pretty accurate. So for me to do that amount of steps, like I know I've put myself in a fairly decent aggressive deficit on that day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And this is the thing I said so obviously I'm still losing weight at the moment. And the guy literally was saying to my mate, who I'm kind of like liaising with about it, I was like, well, the good thing is, I was like, football's back now. I was like, so I've literally got training sessions and then matches. I was like, so that's kind of in theory, I'm like 2 additional times where my output is going to be increased. So I'm like, that for me, I'm like, that's awesome, because it means that my calories don't need to change. Like nothing needs to change probably for a prolonged period now. And I actually haven't really had to do anything apart from do something I enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I now know that I played an hour and a half football on Wednesday. And at the moment, I do like a little bit of step count after each session, like just jump on the treadmill, because I don't get a very high step count. For those of you who listened to this before, you probably heard me say I have to purposely like do some walking on treadmill, go for a long walk outside. And now I've got football. It's just massively going to help that with regards to like, I know on like a Wednesday or a Saturday, I don't need to do those purposeful walks. I can just actually ad lib, go about my day. But also with regards to actually my output, it's just been increased, and therefore my fat loss is now going to be faster. And I've had to do it through no additional stress. I haven't had to change my calories. I haven't had to add in cardio. I haven't had to up my steps. It's like, I'm just like, oh, football's back, and I now get to lose weight quicker. Cool.
Yeah. But the important point is there is like, you don't look at football as the means. Like, you don't play football because you're not like, oh, I'm going to accelerate my fat loss here and it's going to be easy and effortless. Like,
you don't fun outcome.
Yeah. You like, regardless of whether you were looking to lose body fat or not, you'd still play football.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You still turn up and do those things. And I think this is what like so many people are missing. And I do feel people like, I do feel for people that don't have a sport or something. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a sport, like I talk about football, badminton, whatever it may be, but like a hobby. Like that's what I guess we're at. It's like an active hobby. I feel for people that don't have it. And I definitely think people need to try and find something a little bit more they can do, like, because it can even be seasonal as well. So typically in the summer is actually where I probably gain my most amount of weight, is because it's summer. It's the social aspects definitely always much higher, and football season's finished. So it's like, I'm now not moving as much, I'm not burning as much calories, and now the social aspects, the temptations are much, much higher. But if you can find something that is like, you know, even if it is seasonal, like at least, you know, like there's certain stages where, you know, you're going to be burning a ton more. Because this is kind of how I think this is, I've never really thought about it like this, because like I said, I've never looked at football as a mean to burn body fat. But my weight and physique doesn't really change all year round. Like, when was the last time that I, like you personally, Ryan, like noticed me being a different size of whatnot? Like, if not that often. But then I think back to it, and it's like, because first of all, like everything that we've spoken about in this podcast before, like I'm a healthy eating individual. So like I'm calorie conscious. Like, I won't lie about it. Like, I don't necessarily need to be tracking calories, but I know what's coming up. If I've got a big events, like I typically will cut back on calories where I need to. I always search for protein-based item foods. Like, I'm active in terms of like, I walk to the gym, I walk back, like I go into town, like I do these things. Like, I've built all of these habits. But then through like the football season, I think like there's training once a week and there's a football match once a week as well. And I'm like, that in itself is because I actively, again, I personally enjoy going to the gym. So like, I'm not intentionally trying to maintain weight, or I'm not intentionally trying to lose weight or gain weight, but the physique that I managed to keep, and I'm not saying by any means like I'm 100% like confident all year round with it, but what I'm saying, it stays fairly similar all year round because of these things that, like playing football and all of those aspects. I just found it like it never really like fully like clicked until I told you that the other day, and I was saying about like my steps and stuff. And then I started to think a little bit deeper about it. And I started to pin all of the typical places where I do gain weight. The two main ones, Christmas and summer. Well, what do I know about Christmas? Really, really sociable. Okay, we're talking outside of COVID times here. Very like marketing temptations, like food is everywhere. Football season stops for a month. It actually like it stops. We don't play games through December. So all of a sudden, that's not training or games that I'm playing again. Like, there's a common theme here. Like summer again, I gain weight, more sociable times. Football stops. So it's like, oh, hang on. Like, the actual like factor here is the fact that my energy expenditure obviously massively decreases, and there's social elements around these places. So yeah.
Yeah. I think hobby's such a great way to like stay active, because I think for the most of us nowadays, like especially myself included, like when you work from a desk, like you are probably one of the most walking crazy people that I know. Like you are happy to walk everywhere. And I think maybe, you know, also as a bonus that you live, you know, when you lived in
city almost.
Yeah, you live in a place where everything is walkable and accessible. I mean, you know, in a theory, so is mine, but not many people do it, obviously, where I live. So if you can have a hobby, it just helps like keep your activity level higher throughout the week, because it's so easy just to like do like 1,000 steps. Whereas you have football twice a week, or you go play, you know, a lot of my mates have got into golf recently, and they keep badgering me to buy some golf clubs and join them, but they'll go for a round of golf and they'll do 22,000 steps in just a round of golf.
But and no, so continue.
Oh no, and I was going to say, I was speaking to me at the day, and I was like, oh, how was golf? He was like, yeah, it was good. He was like, I tried out my new driver, and he was like, mate, you want to get into this if you're currently trying to late. He was like, round of golf, 22,000 steps. He was like, that'll burn you some calories. And I was like, well, that's quite a lot. I didn't even think you'd do that many. But like, he's not trying to lose weight or anything, but he purposely knew that, like, obviously having a high step count is going to help. You're going to burn more calories. And they're going like 2 times a week, sometimes 3. Not to lose weight. They're going to play golf. But he said that he was just like, he actually said as well, he was like, I am doing way more steps. So I probably need to eat more if I want to maintain like where I'm at.
Yeah, definitely. But it's so going back to what you were saying about like the walking and stuff, and I think what is a huge part of this is, for me personally, and I honestly think no matter where I will be in the world or anything like that, like I will still maintain a decent amount of steps. And the reason I think that I've done it is because I've created an association with it. And so, you know, like when you go back to, so one of the biggest things that I was talking to a lot of friends about and stuff like that was when COVID hit, right, is we now couldn't work in offices and we had to work at home. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people were doing, so like some of my mates in particular, I remember talking to him about it, and he was working in his living room, but he was so unproductive. But his association currently with his living room was that's where he eats dinner, he watches TV, he relaxes, because he's always had to go to an office and stuff. So I said, you've still got these associations like psychologically still built in. So when it goes to doing work, you're easily finding these distractions, these habits, because you're associating that room with these habits that you currently do. And it's the same, isn't it? Of like any kind of location that you have in the house, or even like, you know, smokers that try to stop smoking can almost like completely eradicate it. Mm-hmm. But then they put themselves in a social environment where their association is with drinking and smoking, and then they start smoking again. And it's the same that I think that I've actually unintentionally built with walking. Like, I love listening to podcasts. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, I'm completely obsessed. Like, the only time I ever listen to music is in the gym. I don't listen to music any other time other than that. And everything else around that is almost podcasts. And I think because I've almost fallen in love with the like self-development of podcasts, and also just like fun podcasts and stuff like that, it gives me a reason to go out and walk. I'm not even joking. This is how sad I am. Like, sometimes I'll even just go on a walk, or I want to go on a walk purely because I know there's been a release of a podcast that I'm excited to listen to. Mm-hmm. And I hope some of you listeners here do exactly the same with us on Mondays. Like, you get excited for the Monday release. But
some people do. Some people have messaged being like, oh, like if it's late, some people are like, oh, I usually listen to it on my walk and there wasn't a new episode yet this morning. And I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, it's late.
But the funny thing is, I know that feeling because I've done the same. I haven't messaged them necessarily, but like I've done the same thing where I'm like,
oi.
Yeah, I've gone out to go on a walk. I'm like, hang on, there's no podcast. Like, and I almost am like, do I still go on the walk?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do I do now? But because I've created that association, it doesn't ever feel like a chore. And I now know, well, I don't look at walking as a means to burning calories and getting my steps up. I'm excited to listen to like the podcast and what's to come.
And I think the crucial point here of what you're saying, this is what we mentioned, I think, briefly on the podcast before, weight loss, see it as a byproduct. Exactly like what we're talking about here. If you can focus on loads of other, like, you don't focus on weight loss, like, because if you focus on weight loss, there's nothing tangible there for you to actually do. It's all the other things, you know, you can't just zen into weight loss and it happens, you know, like I always use this analogy. The team that's going to, you know, Manchester City or Brighton, they're in the same league. They both want to go and win the league. Yeah, like ultimately that'll be like an underlying goal. But neither of them focus on winning the league. They focus on what can they do that would lead to the league being winning the league as a byproduct. They focus on the training, the sleep, the recovery, the players they have, like all of these tangible things that they can actually control. Exactly like this. If you can then not think about weight loss, you can just think about staying active, you know, doing things that are going to be healthy habits, your weight loss will just be a byproduct. And how much less stress is that, rather than being like, I've got to go for a walk because I want to lose weight, or I've got to go for a walk because I want to listen to my favorite podcast. They're two very different ways of framing the same situation.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I see it quite a lot, and this is kind of, I'll bring this up. This isn't even on any kind of show notes or anything. It's a pet peeve of mine. But you know, I see it all the time, and people saying inside like the community group and stuff like that is, oh, I haven't managed to go and get my steps up yet. Has anyone got any like motivational music for me to go and do it? And I'm like, that in itself is where the issue is. Like, you're relying on this motivation or some kind of wave of excitement to make you go out and do that walk. Yeah. I'm like, you need to stop thinking, and exactly like you said, like, we need to start creating these associations, and we need to start looking at everything as like a complete byproduct. So all of a sudden, when you stop doing this and you start actually, like you said, actually looking at it as a byproduct of doing the things that you enjoy doing, dieting doesn't become stressful. Like, it isn't a stressful situation. One of my friends, example, is absolutely loves the sauce, loves to drink, loves to
sauce,
loves to eat a lot of like fast food based things. But his job is so incredibly active.
He gets away
like
with it.
He just doesn't. Yeah, but like, he's burning thousands and thousands of calories a day. Like, he never ever. Like, I'd almost argue he's probably got the healthiest relationship in terms with like his self body image and food that I've ever seen in my entire life. But yeah, it's just, again, a classic case of like.
But that's a really interesting point. But is that because he doesn't directly see the backlash of the choices he's making, if that makes sense? Because you're looking at it from a health point of view. Someone who drinks a lot of alcohol, eats a lot of processed food, their health markers potentially aren't going to be the greatest. Not always true. You know, there's a lot of people that do eat processed foods, yet when they go and they get kind of like a health test and their blood's done, they're like, yeah, and come back within ranges. But then you're like, that's because they, like, that individual burns so many calories that eating the processed food doesn't have the same outcome that if, say, I was to eat as much processed food as him, which then is where that relationship comes from, because then I see the direct negative outcome of the actions that I'm taking. Whereas it's almost like, for someone that you see who, and we all can probably think of this person, and I've totally just thought of this off the top of my head, where we're going with this, is that you see these people that you're like, all they do is eat junk food and they don't put any weight. But it's because, like that individual you said, manual labor intensive job, burns a hell ton of calories all day. They, you know, ultimately what we say, they get away with it because they burn as many calories as they're intaking. Whereas for some of us, that isn't the case. You know, if we were to eat a highly processed diet all the time, we don't burn enough calories to get away with it. Therefore, we see the direct negative impacts of that, which then creates that negative feedback loop of, oh, if I eat processed food, oh, it makes me fat. Whereas that individual probably doesn't have that. That individual, I know who you're talking about, but that individual's not stupid. They know that, like, it would happen, but they know that also their lifestyle is so active that they burn a shed ton of calories all the time. So they don't have to worry about it. So then I'd see it as like, that's probably why they don't have that relationship, because they don't see there's no negative feedback loop from the actions that they're taking. You know, if, like many people, I always say, I'm happy to eat meat. For any vegetarian or vegans that listen to this, I'm happy to eat meat. But if you put the chickens, or you put the cows in front of me and you were like, or the prawns or whatever it is I'm eating, and you were like, here you go, Ryan, here's a gun, shoot it, and then you can eat it, I wouldn't be able to do it because I'm seeing the direct consequences of what I'm doing. Whereas because I'm not, and I'm able to get away with it and just eat it and not think about it or not see any negative feedback, it's fine. I can just keep doing it, which is it's a massive, like, far-fetched analogy, but you get, and I've always said that, like, if you can then see the direct representation, that's where I think these relationships come from, because we eat that food and we see this outcome. So ultimately them start to think that this food is what's causing this negative outcome. It's not directly the food, it's the calorie intake of it. But on the surface level, yeah, it's the food. It's the food that contains the high amount of calories. Whereas individuals that get away with it, you know, those skinny people that you say you see who are always eating McDonald's, was because their lifestyle is different that allows them to get away with it, because it allows them to have more calories to intake throughout the day because of their lifestyle. So that's quite an interesting kind of like...
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I think you're absolutely bang on with that, like 100%. It goes back, doesn't it? It's like, if you've everything that happens to you is where your relationship will go with it. So say you get in the car for the first time and you go and crash, you now have an association with crashing as being dangerous. Is that really true? No, not at all.
Like, driving being dangerous, you mean?
What did I say?
Crashing.
Yeah,
crashing is dangerous.
Crashing's definitely dangerous.
I was like, you have this idea that crashing is dangerous. I was like, in what bloody world is crashing not dangerous? Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
Depends what crashing you're doing.
Well, there you go. Party crashing, wedding crashing. Exactly. I mean, that's not dangerous. That's fun. Nah, mate, yeah, carry on. You're so right. Keep going.
But yeah, I was just saying, like, you know, if you drive your car and you obviously crash it, you associate straight away as it's dangerous. But driving a car doesn't mean that driving a car for everyone is dangerous. Like,
yeah, and you'd argue that if you suddenly, I don't know, kept his nutrition and you suddenly added, oh God knows, I don't know, added oil to all of his meals, and then the calories were higher and they were more, and then he started to see his body composition change, what would then his relationship be with the foods that he's eating? Because he'd now directly see the negative impact of those foods that he is eating more so than not to his thing. Then it would be interesting of then how would his mindset shift? Would he then be like, oh, okay, I'm putting on weight, maybe I need to reduce my portion sizes? Would he then maybe look at consuming more nutritionally dense food and less processed food to then help reduce his calories? Do you know what I mean? That'd be really interesting to see. Like, he's a sensible guy. Like, would it suddenly change the way that things were happening?
Yeah, so this is by no means a misogynist statement or anything like that. But if you typically look at, like, you know, the kind of trades that males and females are in, a lot of females are in office-based jobs, aren't they? Like, if you look at it from a bigger picture, and then you think, I don't really see many women. I've seen like female painters and stuff like that, but I don't really see many women doing building work, doing scaffolding,
Yeah, it's like the most labor-intensive jobs that you can have are construction jobs. You know, whether it's like bricklaying all day, labor-intensive, all these kind of things. You're right. Like, a lot of the typically societal, and this isn't us, this is just us like viewing it from an outside standpoint, the more women-dominated industries are less active. You know, office-based roles, working in whatever these roles are, they're not labor intensive, although being a mum is a shed ton labor intensive, so maybe that's like part of it. That's why a lot of women, you know, post pregnancy manage to drop a lot of weight, because they are so like on the go all the time. But yeah, you're right, like, you don't see it. I mean, I think you're seeing it a lot more, like the shift of roles being taken on by both genders. But I think if you look at it and you look at like the most labor calorie burning jobs in the world are jobs in construction, and it is a male dominated. But then again, you look at those jobs, what are the typical characteristics of those jobs? Well, a lot of people, like maybe the bricklayers and stuff, you do still see a lot of overweight construction workers. But then what is the other characteristics? They drink a lot. So not only do they like, well, they don't eat that bad, but it's the beer. And that's then where you see the body compositional changes there. I think you kind of got like a spectrum, haven't you? You either see like construction workers are typically maybe like really skinny because they're burning so many calories, or they're overweight because they go to the beer after work. Like I know kids here, like near where I live, I say kids, they're like older than me, like 33, 34. And literally every day after work, they go to the pub and they'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 pints every day without fail. And they're not overweight, but I know that's blatantly because they don't eat that much in the day because they just work. Like they just work, and then they go have their beers in the evening. So
yeah, definitely. Slight change here. Oh, voice went.
Ooh, you're right.
Slight change here. Going back to what I did just briefly mention about 10, 15 minutes ago. What are some pet peeves of yours? And okay, I'll give you some context to it. Like
in relation to what?
I'm talking like solely like nutrition based. I'm gonna I'll give you an example of mine. First one, because it happened to me not so long ago, and I don't know why it really infuriates me, but people have this association because I'm into fitness, I'm into going to the gym, I'm a nutritionist, that I'm probably going to be somewhat judgmental. And I don't know. I don't know if it's a means of people trying. I don't know how to explain this.
I know what you mean when people like I've had it before, and people like, I don't know, bumped into someone in the shop and they're like, oh, I'm just buying some chocolate bars, don't judge me. And I'm like, I literally couldn't give a flying monkeys if you had 20 donuts in your basket. It makes no difference to me.
Yeah, so the situation that I'm talking about was we're at a restaurant and we're with loads of our mates, and kind of the other halves came as well. And she was like, what's the Hayden? Like, what should I be eating on the menu? And I was like, eat whatever you want. She's like, but what's the least amount of calories? And I was like, they're all going to be pretty calorie dense, to be fair, but like, you know, probably that one because of X, Y, and Z. And she's like, yeah, but it's got carbs in it. I shouldn't be eating that. She's like, and I'm like, oh, I'm not here. I'm here to have some fun. Like, I'm not here to
it's like
start teaching you.
The part, isn't it? When you turn up and someone finds out, like, whatever happens, like you find out something and someone finds out what you are or what you do, you know, like when you used to be a personal trainer or now online, like nutrition coach or whatever it is, you'll get asked questions. Either someone, you know, when you're a personal trainer, someone used to tell us like what exercise they've been doing. What's the best exercise for that? I've been trying to like tone up this part of my arms. Have you got any advice? And I'm like, no, not at 9 o'clock on a Friday night when I'm about to like have beers and have a dance. No, like I'm not working. And then the other thing, you know, people exactly like that, or they're like, oh, we're going to get, you know, we're going to get like I'm going to say this here and she's probably listening. My mother-in-law listens to our podcasts and as you listen to this, yeah, I know. I was like, shall I say this? Yeah. But like, so more so actually my other half's dad, to be fair, always used to make jokes. Like if, it was either, come on, Ryan, you know, you go to the gym, you're a growing lad, you need seconds. And I'm like, no, I'm literally so full. Like, I don't just go to the gym. It doesn't mean I need massive portions. Or like, if I have like some dessert or something, it's like, you sure you're allowed that? Like, it's just a joke, right? You sure? And that happens all the time. Like, you sure you're allowed that? So, yeah, Harriet, if you're listening, have a word with him, will you? Nah, and it doesn't do it anymore. This was like when we first kind of like on the scene, but, people still do now. You know, if someone catches me like, I don't know, eating a chocolate bar, eating ice cream, and they're like, are you allowed that? Like, I think that's probably one of the most common phrases that you get thrown. Are you allowed that? And like,
so
how many calories are in that? And I'm like, I don't know, not my problem. Like you'll always come across that. I think you'll always come across it. Like, you know, someone knows you're that was it. Someone knew one of my mates, other halves knew I was losing weight. And we went round and I had a couple of gins and she was like, oh, you're drinking? She was like, are you trying to lose weight? And I was literally like, yeah. I was like, I'm just going to have like, yeah, not anymore. You've just made me feel awkward. I was like, yeah. I was like, I can still drink. She was like, oh, like surprised. And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. The, what was the one that I just think about then? Where I can't remember the exact scenario.
Although, you know, oh, go on. Sorry, you've remembered.
I was just going to say when so this is going back quite some time ago, but it's now like I'm thinking of all of these scenarios, and so it's quite sweet, to be fair, of them. But they brought out 2 rices, and they had white and brown rice, and they were like, I bought these both because I knew you probably wouldn't eat the white. Like, I know you probably don't want to have stuff like that. Like, it's not that healthy, is it? And like, it's a sweet gesture for them to like bring out this thing, but I'm like, stop like alienating me as this completely different person, like this human being. Like, I still drink, I still go and eat out. Like,
and this is what I'd argue. Like, also, that is the thing. It's alienating on a level of like, it's alienating you because you eat predominantly more nutritionally dense food than not. No offense, like, bit of tough love here. That's what everyone should be doing.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be like, oh, you're nutritionist, you don't eat that. It's like, well, okay, one, we do. One, you know, we live by balance. You know, we have beers, we have ice cream. Everyone knows I love cookie dough. Like, we do that. But also it's then like, oh, you know, you might not want that. And it's like, well, everyone should be eating predominantly a highly nutritionally dense diet. Like, that should be normal. But it's almost then like, oh, you're weird if you are. Like, you're weird because you're eating highly nutritional foods more so than not.
Well, I would go to an accountant and be like, oh, should I buy this? Like, I bought this, and this today. Like, my income's this, and I'm not sure if I've got this coming up. Should I do it?
Or going for a meal with an accountant and being like, oh, I really want dessert, but you probably don't want dessert because it's going to be like more money on top of the bill, isn't it? And you probably don't want to spend more money. And it's like, just go accountant. All they don't do is save or worry about taxes all the time. Like, it's just their job. Yeah. And I think when it comes down to it, it's obviously, I think, just this like ideology that has been put on, you know, personal trainers, nutritionists, coaches, whatever, that like, we're these aliens that, and this is why I think I talk so freely about, you know, drinking alcohol, eating ice cream, my love for pizza, because I'm like, it just normalizes us. Otherwise we get put on this pedestal, and then it almost makes us intimidating. And I think that's a worry as well, is when you're almost intimidating because you're not human. You know, you're the guys that go to the gym all the time and you do this and you do that and you don't have that bad habit. And it's like I eat pizza and ice cream every single week. I have an ice cream every single day. Hayden drinks alcohol regularly, so do I, given certain times of the year more so than not. It's like, we do things that everyone else does. It's just that we balance it, so we make sure that we don't do it too much, and we make adjustments to allow us to do that. And 3, it's normal. Like, everyone does it. Like, we're not some weirdos that don't. The best thing is when like I'm hungover and I'm like, oh man, I'm hungover, and I'm like, I just need some decent filling processed food, and I'm like, right, pizza. And like, for most of you that know me and have heard me speak on this podcast before, I'm literally like, when I'm hungover, I'm a 1 meal guy. Like, I won't eat breakfast because I'll probably just sleep through that. Lunchtime, I'm still like trying to drink some water and just probably sit on the sofa watching film. And then evening, I'm like, right, cool, I'm going to have my 1 meal. Well, because I've got like 2,500 calories, I'm like, sweet. I'll literally go buy a pizza, which will be about 800 calories. And then I'll get a tub of Ben & Jerry's, and the low calorie one usually, or the full hog if I'm really feeling like I'm going to go for it. But either way, that I know that 1 meal is my whole calories in a pizza and a tub of ice cream. The best bet is when I go and buy it and someone I know sees me and they're like, is that what you're getting? And I'm like, yeah, because they don't know the scenario. They're just like, you're having pizza and Ben & Jerry's for dinner. And I'm like, yeah, because I haven't eaten anything for breakfast and lunch because I'm hanging like anything. So yeah, I am, because it fits.
Well, this is exactly what I was actually going to say. Go back to the scenario where someone said, oh, like, what's the least amount of calories on the menu? Like, part of me was like, my first thought was like, I don't know what you had for breakfast. I don't know what you had for lunch. I don't know what drinks you've had in the day. Like, I don't know all of this information.
But what's low calories? Like, what's... Go on.
That's what I mean. Like, I could literally pick you a bland salad that has no dressing and stuff like that, and that tops you over your calories. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what your life is like.
And it's like, what could you fit in compared to what she could fit in? Because she's like, oh, I just want something that's lower on calories. Well, an 800 calorie meal for you, if you're at maintenance, is absolutely fine for you to fit in. That's an average size meal for you. But for someone else, only 400 calories might be a lower size. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no, it's all about context, and there's no context to it.
Yeah.
Like, someone's like, oh, I need to eat more veg. What's good? And I'm like, well, what do you mean what's good? Like, there's no context to that. Like, what veg is good? Like, the first thing I'm like, well, just find the veg that you like. Don't force yourself to eat anything. Like, just find the vegetables that you like. Like, it does crack you up, some of the stuff we get asked. Maybe we should keep a tally, like on a week, of like the funny stuff that people have said. The biggest thing, mate, was like Monster Energies.
People saying that, or why do you drink that?
I can't believe you of all people would be drinking that crap. And my reply is always like, what crap? Well, it's full of chemicals. And I'm like, bingo, what chemicals? Oh, just, and this is it, excuse my French, they're like shit. And I'm like, what is shit? Like you categorically tell me what's in this, that's shit. They're like, oh, like sweeteners. And I'm like, okay, cool, why are sweeteners bad? Well, they've been shown to cause cancer. Well, no, they haven't. Not significantly any health damages in the amount in this can. Next.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't actually know. I'm like, you've just picked this out. You've cherry picked this to be like, it's full of crap. And I'm like, what's crap? Define crap. Tell me what is in this. And then when they're like, sweeteners and stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. So sweeteners aren't going to kill me right now because I'm only drinking a can of Monster. Like, that's absolutely fine. It was within like daily guidelines. And they're like, well, yeah, but still, you like, it's bad for you. And I'm like, but there's no context to like.
Where have you got this from?
Yeah, I'm literally like, it's like you writing with a biro and me being like, oh, don't write with a biro. It's going to increase your chance of, I don't know, arthritis. And they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, writing with a biro is really bad. You should write with a gel point pen.
Yeah.
It's like, where have I even put that? Like, you've heard it and it's just become common, like hearsay, and it's thrown out. And then that's what, and I do it every time now. I'm like, what I always say, I'm like, tell me what is in this that's gonna kill me. Like, tell me what is in this that you're referring to. And they're not referring to anything in particular. They're just full of rubbish. I'm like, all right, looking at the back of the thing as well, for those of you who can see me on YouTube. I'm like, okay, list it. I'm like, what on this are you referring to? They're like, well, like there's loads of stuff in it. Like, look, you can see the list is long. And I'm like, well, you break down the chemical compounds of like a strawberry, the list is like 50 long. Like there's makeups of everything is lists long.
But it's like, it's again, like you said, like a perfect example of context is like, so let's say you've got a diabetic who has just done a 100-meter run, or you've got an Olympic level athlete who's just done a 100-meter run. Your recovery is going to be very, very different. That 100-meter sprinter at the Olympics that doesn't have diabetes will want to have something like sweets to get a fast recovery rate. But then the diabetic isn't going to want to have sweets. It's not going to be beneficial to them. But do you know what I mean? It is all context. Like, there's so much to it.
It's like, recently I've had loads in my thing, and someone's like, I'm eating 1,400 calories. Is that right? That's it. And I'm like,
maybe.
Is that right for what? Yeah, like what for your maths exam, for your cat? Like, I don't know. Like, where are you? I'm like, I don't know enough about you. I need more context. Like, but even then, it's like, I don't feel comfortable like trying to give them a random calorie thing, because I'd have to ask them so many different questions about them, their dieting history, X, Y, Z, to give them an accurate answer. And I don't want to like underserve them. So I'm like, look, if you want a rough estimate, I'm like, use the calorie calculator. It will give you a good starting point to know where you're at. That for the most part will give you a relatively okay deficit. And I always say, track for 14 days, and then you can make any adjustments given the feedback from the measurables that you're tracking. Because I don't want to give you just some random arbitrary number. Like, I'd rather you get it from a calculator and you can actually do some general equation, which gets you to be a bit more self-sufficient, rather than, I'm not a massive believer of spoon feeding, which is why I also don't give to, because I'm like, you just want me to spoon feed you. I'm like, let's actually point you in the right direction so you can take a little bit of ownership on this as well, which I think is really important for everyone in life, take a bit of ownership here and there. But yeah, so funny. Or someone, literally, one of the messages now, let me read this to you, that I literally got, and I read it and I was like, there wasn't even a question. There wasn't even a question behind it.
I love those.
Hi, statements. Coach. I'm 66 kilos, 5'2" in height, 30 years old. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That's all. That
was it. I'm 66 kilos, 5'2" in height, 30 years old. No. This is my message request. And I'm like,
Like, there's constructor.
I mean, they're obviously wanting to know their calories, but some of it's so like, I'm like, what is that?
Okay,
that's like on those. That's like on those. What was it we used to do when we were younger? Now I'm showing my age. Oh God, what was it? On MSN? ASL. Do you remember ASL?
ASL.
Age, sex, location.
Oh, yeah.
We were like 14 years old. ASL. So I literally read that and I was like, okay, like, what the unique context. Well, and that's the thing for everyone listening. If ever you have a question to us, always produce context, because I think some people get annoyed as well with a slow response, because they ask something, expect a response, and then when I have to ask them like 3 or 4 more questions, they probably sometimes think I'm being pedantic. But I'm like, no, I need this information. Otherwise, I can give you a generalized like answer here, but I don't think that's going to serve you. So I'm just trying to get more information. And sometimes I think they're a bit like, just tell me what I need to eat and let's be done with this.
But surely that person, like whoever just said what would read it out again?
It was like, hi coach, I'm 66 kilos, 5'2" in height, 30 years old.
Like, what are you gonna say? Like, what do they think? Do they think you're literally gonna message back being like 1,882? Like, what did you
1,467.
I'm so sorry if you actually listen to this podcast and you wrote that, but that is absolutely ridiculous. Like,
it just needs context.
Think about it.
And so then it is like, sometimes it's like, yeah, like I'm eating 1,400 calories. Is that too little? And I'm like, my first thing is like, I don't know enough about you to give you
could weigh 40 kilos, you could weigh 100 kilos.
To that, yeah, like I don't know. Or I'm eating 1,400 calories. Will I lose a stone by, this is what I've had. I got a party. Will I lose a stone in 3 weeks? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. Like there's so many variables that can, like, it's like, I've got a fish tank with a fish in it. Will it survive for 2 weeks? I'm like, well, I don't know. Are you feeding it? Does the water need to be warm? What type of fish is it? Is it by the window? Have you got cats? Has it got a lid on it? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, there's so many questions that could follow that to actually get a definitive answer. It's like, so if ever you're asking a question, put context to it. It's so much easier for us to answer.
Yeah. And on that note, like, it's probably worth bringing up, like, this is where, like, knowing your calories isn't just enough. Like, you can go on calorie calculators, you can get some numbers, and you're going to get like a rough range of like what it's going to spit out for you. But like, just like we've pretty much been describing there, like, these calorie calculators don't know you, your lifestyle, your personal preferences, your previous dieting histories, your medical history, all of these things. What will have an impact on what your actual calories are? And I'm going to be completely honest with you all. When our clients come into the academy, we all tell them, like, this is your start up nutritional protocol. It will change probably. It probably will, because the only way we can do this is by testing different things, seeing what your feedback is giving us, and then we can adjust accordingly. So you can go on a calorie calculator and find what you think is the calories you need to lose body fat. It probably isn't. Yeah. But
go on. Yeah. And like, here's the point. Losing weight is only part of the puzzle. It's only part of your problem.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to hurt some of you to hear that. But losing weight is only part of your problem. Anyone can put themselves on a deficit. Everyone listening to this has probably lost weight at some point, but has put it back on. If that didn't make you realize that losing weight was only part of the problem, then I don't know what will, because you've lost weight before. But the thing is you didn't know how to keep it off. You didn't know how to overcome the struggles that you faced every single time you tried to lose the weight. Unless you address all the other things, just losing the weight isn't enough. Like, just putting yourself in a calorie deficit isn't enough to lose weight, keep it off long-term, and create a sustainable lifestyle. You will just literally get weight loss. And then as soon as you eat normal again, you'll just put it back on. It is totally a short-term thing. And it's like, everyone knows how to eat healthy. If eating healthy, like, this is why when, loads of people come into the academy and they're like, well, yeah, we learned loads about nutrition, but a lot of it was psychological stuff, which has been the biggest breakthroughs for me. And I'm like, everyone knows how to eat healthy. Yeah. Like, everyone knows what is better nutrition for your body, your health, and longevity. Like, everyone knows that, protein's good. We want to be getting in fruits and veggies. We want to be having a wide range of, food sources to get in lots of micronutrients to us. Everyone knows this, but the actual difficulty is implementing it around all of your lifestyle behaviors that you have. Like everyone knows what to do to eat a highly nutritional diet. Like everyone knows it. If it was that easy of doing that, is why when people are like, yeah, so I'm trying to lose weight, so I just decided to eat healthy. And I'm like, everyone knows how to eat healthy. Like, but it's not as easy as just eating healthy. You know, it's not as easy as just putting yourself in a calorie deficit. Otherwise, we'd be out of a job. Like, this is what everyone kind of like thinks. They're like, why would you give out a calorie calculator that tells everyone their calories so they can lose weight? And I'm like, because that doesn't put me out of a job. Like, I'm like, that's such a small part of the puzzle. Like, that is such a small part. Like, that elicits the weight loss, yeah. But that doesn't deal with the relationship with food, relationships with the scales, the emotional eating, the self-worth, the perfectionism, all these different things that we work on inside the academy that create this wholesome approach that gives you long-term. Creating your using a calorie calculator is literally A to B. The other 24 letters are everything around that. I don't know if you guys knew there's 26 letters in the alphabet, but no biggie. So A and B are literally get your calories, create a calorie deficit. This is the thing. That's all you're doing this whole time is doing A to B, and then you just slip back to A again. And that's why you get frustrated, because you're like, I just can't get anywhere. Like, I just can't make any decent dent in what I'm doing, or at least I can, but I don't stay there. Because what you're doing is you're looking too short-sighted. You're just looking for the B. You're like, cool, I just want A to B. But actually what you want is A to B. What you need is A to Z. You need everything else. You need the education. You need the support. You need the psychological changes. You need the physiological changes that, you know, there's so much behind weight loss. And it infuriates me when people are like I said it, I'm like, you just like for weight loss, you just lead a calorie deficit. Yes, that's not wrong. Like, you've heard me say it. People are like, oh, there's so much more to it. Yeah, there is. And it's like, but some people don't even get that short bit. So that's also why you hear me say that. Like, literally all you need for weight loss is a calorie deficit. Yeah, you do. You just need a calorie deficit to lose weight. But to lose weight, keep it off forever, you need 50,000 more things that come in with it. Like, otherwise, everyone that used my calorie calculator, like, I could literally log into my Linktree, and I think the last time I saw it, I think there was about 32,000 downloads of that calorie calculator who have tried to use it. Well, that should be 32,000 people that have now reached their weight loss goals and that should be having it happily ever after at the size that they want to be. Well, that's not the case. Probably, I reckon maybe 32 of them, maybe 1%, maybe actually took it and have managed to lose weight and actually keep it off long term, because they've been lucky enough to actually focus on some of the other things outside just calories. Like, work out your calories, great. Use the calculator, great. It's going to give you your starting point. That basically just turns the engine on. But you've got to learn how to drive. You've got to learn how to change gear. You've got to learn how to park. You've got to learn how to reverse. You've got to learn how to reverse around a corner. You've got to learn how to emergency stop. You've got to learn how to drive on the other side of the road. You've got to learn how to overtake. You've got to learn how to indicate. There's so many things. Like, just knowing your calories is just literally starting the car.
Yeah.
Everything else, oh man, I've gone off on one. But everything else is so much more to like sustainable weight loss.
What you need to do is like, I don't know if it's something you can
calm down
on TikTok, but you should clip that bit and put like a bit of like a motivational music behind it, chuck it on TikTok. And
I like that. I don't know how long I was talking for, but I'll have a little look.
Yeah, you can segment a little bit.
3 minutes. That's a good little speech there. I like that. But it is, and it's where everyone gets frustrated because they jump in, they're like, what are my calories? And I'm like, there's so many better questions that you could ask. Like I'm struggling to lose weight. These are my main struggles. Okay, cool. Now let's look at why. Why are these your struggles? We're now taking it that next level. Okay, we're now looking at why we're struggling to lose weight and how we're going to overcome that. Because if you overcome the reasons as to why you can't lose weight, you will then lose weight and you'll keep it off because the reasons that were keeping you where you were have now been eradicated as well.
Yeah.
What are you writing down, you sneak?
I was literally just thinking.
Writing down quotes.
No, I was like, so I think you follow her as well. She's like this psychologist and she's Dr. Julie something.
Yeah, I found her on TikTok. She's awesome.
But why she is so amazing is because like everything that she speaks about I've heard before. Everything, literally everything. But what she does so well is she makes everything so relatable and understandable by using analogies. Like the best one that I use it to this day is about like stress, anxiety, and stuff like that, and like the holes in the bucket. And what drilling these holes, drilling the holes in the bucket is what you're kind of like releasing the water so it never fully tips up. And that's stuff like socializing, like all of these elements. I was just thinking then, I was like, you should literally do the same with like all of your, because you've got so many ones about like weight loss. Like the one that you just there is literally like your calories is starting the ignition in a car. You can't get anywhere. Like, well, you can probably like cruise down the road or something, but it doesn't get you to your end destination. So I was thinking like, you should do the similar TikTok ones that she does, but do it solely on, and you can do like physical things like a toy car, and you can like explain it like this.
I like this. Look at this. We're live on a podcast and we're coming up with content ideas.
Yeah, there you go. So you heard it here first.
Yeah, you did. You thank Hayden off for that. But yeah, and it's probably what infuriates me the most, because I'm like, all those people that use their calories are probably no closer to their goals. Like, for like long term,
it's sad.
Like they might be like, yeah, I'm doing amazing. I'm counting my calories. I'm a stone down. And always in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I hope you've kind of had some like great light bulb moments along the way about, you know, your relationship with food or what you're going to do after. Because that's also it. That's another thing that's adding to the car, is like, you've also got to know how to stop, turn off the engine. As in, like, once you've finished tracking your calories, what happens after? Like, even if you did lose the 2 stone tracking your calories, what happens next? Life after MyFitnessPal. I did a lecture on it inside the academy. I went deep into like what it is you need to do, because people jump in the car and it's almost like having sat nav on. It takes you to your destination, but what happens when eventually you take your sat nav away and now you've got to navigate the road yourself? Are you prepared? Because otherwise you're just going to literally have to just go straight back to the beginning, and you're just going to keep making that same journey. You put the sat nav on, you drive to your destination, and then you take the sat nav off and you're like, well, I don't really know how to drive anywhere else apart from the way I just come. So I'm just going to go the same way back again. And you keep falling back. Whereas what you need to do is learn the roads, learn the maps, learn anything about it, because otherwise you can track your calories and you can lose 2 stone. But if you don't understand about portion sizes, protein, understand about how the menstrual cycle impacts you, about stress management, about mindset, all these different things that are going to help you after MyFitnessPal, so that you don't have to track for the rest of your life, then that's where the success is going to come. You know, I see people that are like been logging for like 897 days. And I'm like, you have an obsession with MyFitnessPal. Like, you literally have an obsession where you don't feel comfortable dropping it or safe to drop it because you have no clue what to do if you just were to not track. You're like, well, how am I meant to know what calories you are? And you're like, well, you don't. Like, loads of people maintain their weight without knowing what their calories are.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, oh. And I'm like, that's where education comes in, which is why we have an educational portal inside the academy. Plug.
So to sign up to the academy, you can.
Yeah. There's so much more to it. And that's what I can't stress enough, is if it was that easy about working at your calories and just tracking your calories, people would be in mad shape. And we wouldn't have an obesity epidemic, and, you know, we wouldn't have issues. You know, your food environment, your susceptibility to food, your motivational and inner drive to consume food, it's all different. It's all individual dependent.
Yeah. It's like, this is why when I speak to some people, I get it. I get the reason, like, and actually having a time constraint goal can be super useful for some people to get to their goal quicker. So the way I'm thinking about it is like a wedding. Mm-hmm. And it's like, people are, oh, I want to look good in the dress and stuff like that. But I'm like, there's a part of me that is like, you couldn't care less about keeping this off right now. Like, you just want to have this one picture, and is that what you're looking at happiness as? Like that one picture, that sole picture on your wedding day in that dress? I'm like, it's not what you're unhappy about. Like, we need to build all these foundations. And I'm like, cool. Anyway, when is the wedding? They're like, next week. And I'm like, awesome. Sweet.
Next week. You're like,
you probably shouldn't eat anything.
Next week, 2022 or
yeah.
Like, and yeah, this is it. And sex, that goes down to the expectations. And unfortunately, we've got these we've got these unrealistic expectations when it comes to weight loss, and they're probably one of the biggest things that are also holding you back from actually even getting any headwind.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if you were to start something and it was meant to be like X, but it turned out like Y, well, you'd get a refund. You know, you don't go to the shop and buy a flask expecting it to hold a liter of water and it only holds half a liter. You take it back and you'd be like, yeah, this doesn't do what I thought it would, because you would be, yet what we do is we keep going back and we keep exchanging it for the same water bottle, just a different shape or size.
So still slightly mind blown about this. This is a complete change in the conversation, by the way. And okay, when I was at this is how long ago I'm talking. When we were at primary school, there was this magician that came in and he had this cup, right? And he got me to hold the cup. And it was one of those like plastic cups that there wasn't anything else to it. It was literally just like a plastic cup. And he was like
an American red cup.
Yeah. Essentially. And he was like, right, what I want you to do is, he was like, you see this, and it was like some squash or something. He was like, I'm going to tip it in there and you can drink it. And I remember like, okay, so I drank the water or the squash, and then he gave it back, to him. And he was like, okay, you can see the glass is empty, yeah? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, look once more, 100% empty. He was like, yeah. He was like, okay, handed it back to me. He was like, show everyone it's empty. So I showed everyone, like tipped upside down. So I gave it back to him and he said, okay, now I want you to drink this again. And the glass was full up again. And only because you mentioned water bottle then, and you were saying about, I was just thinking, like, imagine there being a bottle where it was literally said it's like a litre bottle, but it doesn't go above the 500 ml. But I was like, but then it just made me remember that one scenario. And I'm still to this day, I'm like, how did he do it? Like, I'm like,
mate, did you ever do it at school when you used to get a paper clip? You'd attach a paper clip to the inside of your like school shirt. You'd have an elastic band with another paper clip on. You'd stretch it. You'd hold out the paper clip. You'd hold it there, and you'd be like, and then when you let go, it'd obviously just ping up your arm, and everyone used to be like, I totally used to show it to all the girls and impress them on my magic skills. That's part of what I did at school. That was literally primary school.
Was everyone like looking on the floor like, where is it?
How did he do it? Yeah, apart from sometimes when you let go and it like pings up your arm, you've got like paperclip prints all like your arm, which just like flicked you, and you're like,
You're literally bleeding out of your arm.
Oh, the good times.
Well, team, I think we've taken up enough of your time, so we'll wrap this party up. And we are definitely planning to bring some special guests on again. So we'll keep you informed of that. But other than that, it's going to be goodbye from me.
Yeah, and thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget that if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe, but also keep your eyes peeled, because we're currently in the works of something pretty special that we're going to be releasing soon. And for those of you that have struggled, lost the same 10, 20, 30 pounds over and over again, can't get any long-term success, similar to what we've just been speaking about finding more than just a calorie deficit when it comes to weight loss, keep your eyes peeled, because in the next 2 weeks, we've got something pretty cool coming to the table, and those that act fast will be able to enjoy it and create that freedom that you've always looked for.
Yeah. So the thing about this is as well is like, this isn't going to be like an evergreen course. Like, this is going to be a kind of one-off thing that we're running. We're going to see obviously how people respond to it. We honestly think it's going to be a big hit, but we may not do this again. Or if we do, it will only be like twice a year.
Seasonal.
Yeah, it won't be a big thing. So yeah, if you're interested, you actually want to find out first from Ryan, just put exciting news in his inbox. Right, you totally won't even remember that, but
and I will. Exciting news. I remember, because we're going to be releasing a priority list. So those that act fast we'll get first refusal because, as you know, with everything, we have to cap numbers. Otherwise, it gets a little bit cray-cray. So if you are, DM me exciting news and you will be on the list of the first to know when we release this new special thing. I'm not even going to tell you guys anymore. You're just going to keep you in suspense. Right, team.
See you later.
Enjoy yourselves and have an awesome week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.